Hello, I am going to quickly try to do a little bit of extension stuff. This very much is extension for S1, but about the 3 different ways we can add CSS, because actually they all have their place. So what we've done so far is we've added an external style sheet. So we've created a whole separate file that's just CSS in it. And then what we have to remember to do is create a link to that file. Here it is. That link goes in the head section of our HTML document, and that means it doesn't matter how many pages I create. If I want them styled like that, I just put this bit of code in and it will get all the styles. It will link straight to that separate file with all the styles. However, what if I have one file that has to one HTML document that has some different styles on it? Well, I can do an internal style sheet. So I'm just going to do a quick example of that here. Internal style sheet is where we put all the CSS inside the HTML. It goes in a specific place in the head section because we don't want it displaying on the page. We're using the CSS to change how we display what's on the page, but we don't want the actual CSS code coming up on the page. So we put it in the head section. Internal CSS. That's what I'm about to put here. And the way we do it is we put these tags in the head section. Style. Okay, so opening style tag, closing style tag. So you just put one set of style tags in the head section if you want to do this. Okay. Now, inside the style tags, this is no longer HTML territory. This is CSS zone. This is now CSS that goes in between here. That's what it's expecting. So we can put CSS exactly like we did in our external CSS file. So I can type whatever I want. So let's say I want the paragraphs to be a particular color. Then I do my selector, P, so it's looking for P tags, my curly brackets, and then in there I put whatever I want. I want to put Navajo. Oh, I've forgotten what it was. Navajo white. Actually, I can remember the hex code just to be sure. Okay, so that means the font color of my paragraphs will now be set to this hex code. Okay, and I just want to check that works. Oh, I had it open already. Oh, I can hardly tell. What was it before? Oh, it was like that before, and then I've reloaded it, and now we're getting this. Okay, so that's an internal style sheet, and I can include as much as I like in there. I can do the body, I can do the background color, whatever. It will actually override anything that is coming from an external style sheet. So we can have both of these techniques being used. We can have an external style sheet, and then maybe I want some of the things different, so I include an internal style sheet on this page. One thing that's a little bit trickier about it is when Notepad++ knows that it is a CSS file, then it picks up on all these things, like it makes the selectors blue, and it makes these this sort of greyish bluish colour. When we're doing it in an HTML file, even though that is CSS that goes in there, it doesn't pick up on it because it's in an HTML file. Notepad++ doesn't help us debugging in the same way. Anyway, we can put as many things as we like in there. I can put H1 stuff and whatever I like in the same way as I did in the external CSS. The third style, which I haven't mentioned yet, is third way of putting styles in is what we call an inline style. Now, an inline style is used when you want one particular thing to be changed on the page, or just one or two particular things. We use inline styles. So if I want all the paragraphs to be styled on this page, this color, then I can do it here. Internal CSS, I'm just going to applies to this page only. Okay, but it applies to the whole page. But then I can override it with some inline styles. So let's say this paragraph here. Okay, all the rest are Navajo white, but but actually I want this one to be a different color because I want to create a horrific looking web page. But I want this to be a different color. Well, here's how I do an inline style. In the opening tag, so whether it's H1 or P or H2 or even IMG, in the opening tag, I take a space after the tag name, and then I type style equals. So this is actually just an attribute, just like we did attributes for image. We did the source attribute, height, width, alt, title. This is just an attribute. So in speech marks, remember that's Shift and 2 to get those, I can now list some CSS. Now it's very slightly different. I don't need to put the selector because it's already selected, it's this paragraph, and so I don't need the curly brackets either. So just to be clear, I'm not having to put the P or the curly brackets, but other than that, I now just type CSS right in between these speech marks. So I want this one a different color. Let's make it, it'd be nice if I could think of a color at all. Let's just go for black because I know that'll work. Okay, and it'll look different enough. Save that. That will now apply that style only to this paragraph. Okay, style equals, let's go and refresh it. So I think it was this paragraph here. When I refresh it, that will change to black. So the Navajo white or whatever color I set this to, that applies to all the paragraphs, but then it gets overridden by that inline style for that paragraph. And I can add inline styles wherever I like, and I can add more than that. You know, I could set the background color for this paragraph to something else. Let's set it to green, as long as I remember my semicolon at the end of each thing that I've set. So attribute name, colon, what I want to set it to, semicolon. And then I do the next attribute name, colon, what I want to set it to, semicolon. Okay, again, as ever, as with all this, attention to detail. Be careful with it. Be really careful. Speech marks. Don't forget, this is still all just inside that opening tag, so we still then have to have the greater than symbol there. Okay, let me just check if this has worked. So it should now set the font color to black and the background color to green for this paragraph only. Let's just check. There we go. If I wanted that to happen for every paragraph, well, there are 1, 2, 3 paragraphs here, 4 paragraphs. If I wanted every paragraph on the page to be styled like that, well, I could do this. I mean, I could copy that, Control C, and I could paste it in and paste it in everywhere else. But that, frankly, is a pretty rubbish way of doing things. It means if I then think, no, actually I want all the paragraphs to be blue, I need to go and change blue to blue in 4 places there. So if I want it for the entire page, I'm just Control Z to undo just now. If I want it for the entire page, the sensible place to put it is either in an internal style sheet, so either up here, or in the external style sheet. So basically, external style sheet is if you want it to apply to all the pages in your website, or certainly most of them, a large number of them, you put it in an external style sheet. If I want it, the CSS to apply to one particular page, then I put an internal style sheet on that page. So that's the style tags in the head section, and then type CSS in between them. If I want the styles to apply to one particular element, then I put them in an inline style. So that's the style attribute in the opening tag. Now don't worry this if you're finding that difficult to follow. It's just here for those of you who are a bit more interested and want to learn a bit more about it. Okay, so feel free to play about with that. Have fun.